Months old. The first two parts of the series are this week on Tuesday and Thursday at 1 p.m. Every family will receive a different small baby gift at each virtual event that they attend. So be sure to register on pgcmls.info/events. PGCMLS is joined again by the fun and ever exuberant 123 Andres this Tuesday at 4:45 p.m. at the New Carrollton Branch Library. This Wednesday at 7 p.m., PGCMLS is honored to be hosting a keynote conversation with legendary civil rights leader, women's advocate, and civil rights activist Dolores Huerta and County Executive Angela D. Also Brooks. This event highlights the essential role and contributions of Latin Americans and Hispanics in advancing civil rights for all Americans. This virtual event is co-presented by the Office of Human Rights as part of Hispanic Heritage Month 2021. Visit pgcmls.info/Hispanic-heritage to learn more. Do you have a legal question that you wanted to have answered by a lawyer? The Lawyer in the Library program at the Oxon Hill Branch Library provides free law services and legal advice related to expungements, child custody and support, bankruptcy, landlord-tenant matters, veterans benefits, and a whole lot more. Stop by on Thursday from noon to 2 p.m. to get your questions answered. Thanks for watching, and we would love to know your thoughts on these events here at PGCMLS, so be sure to comment on these videos and let us know what you think.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Prince George's County Memorial Library System's virtual program series. Today, we are back with Community Conversation, which meets on Thursdays throughout the month, every month, to have an opportunity to chat with wonderful civic and community leaders who are making a difference here in our community on a daily basis. Today's program is being co-presented with the Prince George's County Office of Human Rights, which is our county's civil rights education and enforcement agency, and our wonderful partner here at the library, where we do all the cool things with them. So props to OHR and Kyla and Renee. And we are going to get started here in just a moment. Just want to invite everyone to join in the fun in the chat, wherever you're watching us from. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Retweet, share, comment, tag, whatever you want to do, help more people join us on this great conversation that's coming up ahead. Really glad and honored to introduce one of my wonderful colleagues, and also one of our wonderful colleagues from outside of the library who's working on some cool projects with us. First off, we have Rebecca Oxley, who uses she and they, and Rebecca is with the Greenbelt Branch Library, and she's the mind behind a lot of the really cool programs you've been seeing happening around the Greenbelt community. And our special guest today is Karen Holmes, who uses she, her, hers, and Karen is a wonderful community leader and advocate who we are partnering on for some very special initiatives that you will hear more about today. So have a great program. Thanks so much for being with us, and enjoy.
Thank you so much, Nick. Hi, everybody. Hi, Karen.
How you doing, Rebecca?
I'm doing really well. It's October. It's LGBTQ plus History Month, and I'm really thrilled that you could join us here today. I'd like to provide our audience with a little bit of background about your incredible career. So everybody, please hold on to your hats as I tell you about Karen Holmes. She works for the federal government as a safety officer. She's a strong advocate for the transgender community, speaking and training around the country for military, police, fire, medical fields, university organizations, and others. She is an international board member on the Transgender Veteran Support Group of LGBTQ Resources, of which she is the president of the Washington, D.C. chapter and the vice president of the Maryland chapter. In July 2021, Karen received the honor of the 14th Annual Pride Index National Esteem Award for Outstanding Service. In October 2020, she received the AARP Marilyn Andrus Award for Community Service and received the Engendered Spirit Award from Capital Pride in June of 2018. She also was a TED speaker with TEDx Asbury Park, New Jersey on May 19th, 2018. In April 17th, she received the 2017 Monica Roberts Advocacy Award. She was selected in January 2017 by LGBTQ Nation News Source as one of the top 50 successful transgender Americans you need to know. in May 2015, she was honored in a special edition of The Platform magazine, along with 31 other up-and-coming women from around the world. And April 2014, she received the Willis Green Community Service Award and the Unsung Hero Award team by the Corporation for National and Community Service. And I actually could go on. I'm just going to stop at these past 5 years to let everybody know all the things that you've been doing in our community. So Karen, welcome to the program.
Oh, thanks for having me on the show, Rebecca. It's an honor to be with y'all, especially for this History Month. So yeah, it's just an honor to be here.
Let's start off by talking a little bit about where you grew up. You know, what was that experience like for you?
I grew up I actually was born and raised at the Bethesda Naval Hospital, which is now Walter Reed. We lived in D.C. until I was about, we'll say 11, and then moved to Montgomery County in Silver Spring and been out here. My mom has ever since. I got married. I really don't remember the year, but it was so short. I don't even count it as a marriage because it only lasted 6 months. She later told me that she wasn't really ready to be married. And I'm like, oh, now you tell me? So that lasted, like I said, 6 months. And then from there, got married again, which lasted 19 years before it was all over. And then I was getting ready to get married again to a young lady in Seattle, Washington. You could call it Sleepless in Seattle if you like, because that's how it was. We were traveling back and forth, seeing each other, me in Maryland and her in Seattle. And then after she called it off for the second time, that's when I said to myself, I'm just going to go ahead full force and just start dressing all the time. But I started dressing at the age of 13, and that lasted till October 1st of 2010, where I actually just really realized who I was. And that's why on my business cards and everything else, my tagline is 40 years and wandering no more.
Mm-hmm. That's really fantastic. I appreciate you sharing your experience growing up. And so you started to ask these important questions about your gender and or your sexuality identities as young as the age of 13.
Right. I didn't know at that time, that I was transgender. All I remember was something is different. And I was constantly throughout those 40 years asking God, what's going on? Why do I keep dressing all the time? And finally, I guess you could say he answered my question. He introduced me to a friend of mine who took me to a conference in Philadelphia called the Philadelphia Trans Health Conference. And now it's called the Philadelphia Trans Wellness Conference. So if you look that up, you'll be able to see more information about it. But it's a conference that is totally free for 3 days. And people from all walks of life from around the world actually come to this conference. So the only thing you really got to pay for is your travel and your hotel stay. And the rest is history. What you will definitely hear are stories of other transgender people at workshops. Even I've done a couple of them there myself. And then, of course, you're going to see kids 5, 6, and 7 years old just enjoying themselves for who they are. And their parents are totally supporting each and every one, on which that's what struck me, along with hearing the stories. I'm like, oh my God, this is who I truly am. And when I left that conference, gun-ho, fired up, I said, I got to do something. I want to go full time. And so I basically met up with a coworker who's one of the attorneys at the agency. And I said, look, this is who I am. And she said, okay, let me talk to the director of Civil Rights and Inclusiveness. Tell her your story without telling your name and see where it goes. And when she reported back to me, she said she was in tears. And I said, okay, I'll meet with her. And when I did, I got the same response. She said, look, let me talk to the CEO of the agency and see where it goes. And she came back and said he was in full support of my transition and do whatever it takes to make it successful. And I can tell you more into that story till I actually came back, if you like.
Absolutely. I'm just curious to hear more about how your life changed after you transitioned.
So when I did that, they came back and they said, you need to give us 3 months so we can get everything prepared and ready for you to transition on the big day. They asked me to pick a date, and I said, okay, let's try October 12th coming back to work. So I took off from October 1st till the 12th of October in 2010. And from there, basically, we had a meeting every week to go over stuff that we were going to try to do to introduce myself back to the agency, which is at that time was in 47 states across the country. So they came up with a plan. I couldn't tell anybody about my transition or what was going on. And that was really tough because I always thought I was going to slip. I was on Facebook back then, like I am now, but my name then was Karen Kendra Harris. So I figured nobody's going to find me there. So I was still able to post things on Facebook at that time, knowing that my ID was going to be still undercover. And then basically October 1st, I came back in. I talked to my supervisor, who didn't even know, because she's the type of person, they just felt that it would leak out. And so we didn't want it to leak out. We wanted the story to come out the same day, the same time across the country, which it was like a covert operation. And it was pretty neat because nobody knew. And the day that they talked to the executive team and everything, they told them, and then every department manager had to tell their team. And they read a letter from me about my transition and who I really was. That went great. And then the next day they had a mandatory staff meeting in the conference room and across the country with all the other state offices, where they really revealed Karen. And the funny part was later when I talked to some of my coworkers, they said, we thought we were all going to get fired. You know, they thought it was that kind of a meeting, and little did they know it was about me. And so that just was really good. I came back to work, and coming back to work, I found gifts on my desk, cards on my desk. Security was ready to do my new ID badge and everything. And it was so funny because they had posted a picture of me doing the mandatory meeting, and the security guy was getting ready to take my picture, and he goes, or would you like to have this picture up? And I'm like, oh yes, let's use that picture, because it was me in the park with my head cocked a little bit with a big smile, and everybody at the agency was totally jealous because they were like, how did you get that picture, you know? And I said, I got connections, that's all. So that was it. And my time at the agency, I mean, like, I thought I was going to come back to a 5 to 10% of an issue when I left and came back, just because of, I felt like who I was and my involvement in the community and the agency staff. They all knew the type of work and commitment I was giving to the community. Even at one time in 2003, I ended up getting the Willis Green Community Service Award, which is an award that's granted to an employee for doing outstanding service work outside the agency. Our agency is the type that has very much involvement around the country with AmeriCorps members. So that's basically the type of service we were doing. And so that was super great, you know, but I came back and it was only like a 1 to 2% of an issue with people at work. And now I think at the agency, after 11 years, which October 1st was my 11th year anniversary, it got better. I think I'm probably down to 0%, if anything, maybe 0.5%. But, you know, we've been out of the agency for almost 2 years now. So I don't know, but everybody knows the type of work I do as an employee, as well as they're hearing and seeing things that I'm doing, especially now around the transgender community and everything else.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. That is such an inspiring and hope building story. I wish that everybody could have as much support and as much love and security and trust and faith as you clearly experienced in your transition. And although you encountered some obstacles, over time, things did get better. So I think that's a really hopeful message for anybody out there who's watching, who's not yet transitioned and thinking about that there are fairy tale stories, like Karen Holmes. Now you are a decorated soldier as well. You were a past soldier of the year in the State Guard Association of the United States in 2013, as well as NCO Soldier of the Year in Maryland State Guard Association in 2012. What was your experience like in the military?
It was difficult. And the reason why I say it was difficult is because I was always hiding who my true identity was, because I actually joined the Maryland Defense Force after I transitioned. So I was already my driver's license, social security card, passport, because I didn't have to have my birth certificate at the time. So all of this was changed over to my new name as well as my gender marker. And so, but the thing is, was I going to be found out, about my past? And I hadn't had the big surgery just yet, which I had back on April 8th of 2016. And at that point, getting awards and stuff, which we mentioned about the NCO Soldier of the Year was first. And then I was really shocked when I heard my name being read that day at the Christmas gala that we had. I sat there for like about 4 to 5 seconds, like, whose name did they just call? And then I went down to South Carolina, where they had the annual conference down there. Well, actually, it's not really there. It moves all over the country. But there, by the State Guard Association of the United States, that's where I got honored as Soldier of the Year of the country. So, and to hear female soldiers come up and say, "Great job, you're doing it for us." I'm like, yeah, I am, because that's who I am in my mind, heart, and spirit. But I can't say anything or put it out to the transgender community because they don't know I'm transgender, the military. So I just felt like I was really cheating my community out at that time, because I thought that was very important to let others know that we're doing a great job. And there was a couple of times where I would take a photograph in my mom's living room. There's a portrait that's right above where I take that picture at. And one of the soldiers had said to me one time, "Is that you that's in that photo, that in this picture?" And I'm like, and I didn't want to lie to him. I said, yeah, that was me. And so he goes, wow. And so later I did get a chance to talk to him. And he said, "Look, I want you to know one thing. You're not only a good friend, but you're a great soldier." And that was such an honor to hear that. And then when I had the surgery in 2016, ABC 2 News out of Baltimore actually did a story on me. They waited till after the surgery before they put it out up in Baltimore, which is where our battalion was up there. And when I came back from the surgery and next time at drill, constantly people were coming up to me and going, "Hey, we saw the interview. It was a great job. We're proud of you," and stuff like that. And that went all the way up to the general for our battalion. So, and they had also talked to the National Guards, which the Maryland Defense Force supported. And just to let you know a little bit about the Maryland Defense Force, we're actually under Congress Title 32 of the militia of the State Guard, as far as I'm concerned. I hate that word militia, but that's where even the guards got started at, was from that, the militia. So I'm very proud of, the group and the support they gave me after then. Nothing changed. They were constantly, I was getting accommodation awards for what me and my team were doing out there, which was part of force protection. We were off duty and I could say, "Hey, let's help out at this accident that just happened outside our gates." And we jumped right into it. Next month, we were getting accommodation for doing it because Baltimore County Police said we did a super job making sure everything was okay and traffic was moving.
Wow, that's incredible. And I just want to say, thank you so much for your service and all that you have given to this country, especially, your story is happening during a time where you weren't always free to live an authentic life and still have the honor of serving your country. So thank you so much for sharing that. And we celebrate your every success, of course.
Well, thank you.
Now, you have done TED Talks, which are available to see on YouTube about about your journey, 40 years wandering no more. You've done lecture series and you do trainings all over the country. Why is public speaking such an important form of advocacy, and has it brought you any personal healing?
Wow, great question. Let's put it this way. When I first transitioned back in 2010, I actually went to that conference again up in Philadelphia. I've been trying to do that every year because it's like the circle returns, completion of what happened. So I would always try to make sure I went to every one of those conferences. I have missed a couple of them, and most of them has been because of COVID. We've been doing it virtually, and so it's kind of hard to do that. But back then in 2011, I call her the mother of all grandmothers for the transgender community. And she told me in 2011, she said, you need to be talking in live to everybody because you have a great story. The success that you've had in your transition, you can encourage a lot of people. And I said to myself, I'm not quite ready, to do that yet. I need to know more about me. And so I waited. And then the following year at Transgender Day of Remembrance, November 17th of 2012, that was my first speaking engagement. And then I just felt like, God placed it on my heart that it's not about you. Even though I was volunteering still with Red Cross, CERT, which is Community Emergency Response Team, and RSVP, which is Retired Seniors Volunteer Program, I just felt him say, you need to do more for the community. And so that's when I started jumping into speaking. And it's been great to hear the encouragement, to hear other trans people say, you saved my life. You've helped me understand who I am. You've helped me know that I can come out. And all of these great stories. It's funny, I just heard talk to, there was a person who I know that when I spoke with Montgomery County Human Resources, I just for them last year, and to hear her come back and say, there were so many people that were on that call that said, you helped them do their transition. Even in my own department, that somebody's coming out. Other mothers that were sitting on that conversation who have trans kids, they're able to accept them better, to understand that, yes, they're okay, we'll be okay. And the safety and security, I understand that they're worried about that, but it's something that they just have to make sure that they're aware of, just like I do. And it's just been just something that I really love to do now. It's like an energy charge when I have to go out and speak. I might be tired, but I'm definitely fired up to help the community. I'm partnered now with the Department of Justice Community Relations Services, and I actually go around the country and speak to other law enforcement officers to bridge that gap between the transgender community and law enforcement. A couple of years ago, back in 2019, I ended up getting a phone call from the 3rd District Commander where there was 2 trans women that were murdered out there. And the commander said, look, I want to know if you might want to help, because what we're doing is the borderline of DC and Maryland. Prince George's County was pushing the girls over across the street to DC. DC would come by, push them back over to Maryland. And so she said, I don't want to keep playing ping pong with these girls. And if I lock them up, all they're going to do is come out and get back into this sex work again. And so she said, I don't want to do that. What would you like to do to help? And I said, oh, absolutely. Let me go out and I'll do my best. And so I was riding along with an officer every 2 weeks on a ride along. And whenever we saw any of the girls out on the district line, he would pull over and I would get out of the cruiser and go up and talk to the girls and say, hey, my name is Karen. What I want to do is find out if there's any way we can help you get off the streets. And the interesting part is they're seeing me get out of a police vehicle. So I knew that would scare them a little bit because I wanted to build their trust. And I basically at that point said, look, don't worry, I'm transgender too. And that their level of anxiety went down because of the fact they knew I was one of the part of the community and I was there to help. And so that's how that all got involved until COVID hit. So I'm hoping that with any time soon that they'll say, come on back and ride along again, because I miss those girls in a sense that I felt like I was making a connection with them, because I had actually one girl who called me up on the phone in the afternoon and said, I want to get off the street. I've just been raped. And to me, that was so trustworthy that she knew that she could call me and know that she was in good hands. Now, do you want me to talk about the big project now or later when you ask?
I just want to take a brief moment to honor some of the folks that you're talking about. Thank you for that incredible segue about how and why we need to protect Black trans women, especially young women, especially women who may or may not be engaged in sex work for survival or for any other reason. So as the public probably knows, we lost two very young Black trans women to violence in 2019, Ashanti Carmen, who was 27, and Zoe Spears, who was only 23, both of whom were actually killed within blocks of one another in Fairmont Heights. And then, of course, recently, Taya Ashton, a 20-year-old woman, transgender woman, was found murdered in her Suitland apartment. And so these ride-alongs, I remember when we met at the trans memorial that was organized this past year. And when I heard you speak, it was like you were speaking directly into my heart as a librarian. And that was the first thing I thought was there's gotta be something, that we can do as a community partner, to try and help out the incredible work that this one individual, Karen Holmes, is doing. But one thing I do want to ask, for any of our viewers who really may not quite understand, why is it that these young women are at such a high risk for violence, and what kind of resources are available to help these women live their best true lives?
It's so sad, and I like to start this part of the segue into that question is we transition to be happy. And because of the way society treats us, we end up losing our spouse, we lose our children, we lose our family, we lose our jobs, we lose our homes, we lose our friends, and then we end up committing suicide. And I think, when it comes to a relationship, a lot of these girls have been killed through relationships, or just sitting at a bus stop, waiting for the bus, and somebody comes up and attacks them and stabs them in the back or whatever the case. This happens all over the world. And that's the heartening part of it, that it's not just something that's just in Fairmont Heights. And so we just really need to make sure that we do what we can to try to help these girls. A lot of the age group of most transgender women is 28. And that's really, really sad. And it's not just trans women, it's trans men, but women of color, they're the biggest statistics out there as far as being murdered. Out of, so far this year, 38 murders. I haven't checked the latest numbers, but I know the last time I did, it was 38. And probably out of the 38, 35 of them have been women of color. And that is sad, sad, sad that we're dealing with numbers like this. And we're talking each and every year that this is growing, growing, and growing. It's not something that just happens one year. It's been every year. And we have this event that's all over the world. It's called Transgender Day of Remembrance, where we get together in Prince George's County and read all the names of the girls that have been murdered and guys. And then other states will do the same thing. So this is something that goes along all over the world, where people will get together and do a memorial for them and light the candles, say poetry, you may hear songs. It's touching. So if you ever get a chance, check your local state and community, and you will find out, if you Google Transgender Day of Remembrance or TDOR, which is TDOR, you might be able to find one right in your local area.
Thank you for bringing that up. It is a sad and vicious reality that women of color who are trans, particularly Black trans women who happen to be very young, are continuing to be murdered at disproportionate rates year after year. Is something that as a community we can't stand for, and we need to do everything we can to uplift, protect, and cherish these women. So I would love to talk a little bit about a unique project that the library has been working on. We're calling it the Butterfly Project, and that is actually a nod to you, Karen, since your icon and symbol is the butterfly. And so we've adopted that as our logo and our name. What we are aiming to do essentially is a discrete, hyper-focused outreach and workforce development program specifically for young Black and Brown trans women. And we have recently developed a resource guide so that since we know that many of these young girls may live and work around the Fairmont Heights branch of the library system, the librarian through there is Kamar Roden, who has been incredibly active and supportive of these initiatives. And what we hope is that these young women will come to the library and meet us in a place of trust and respect and a safe space so that we can share with them the knowledge that and expertise that librarians have, working on resumes, interview coaching, setting up networking, connecting people to wraparound services, and hopefully connecting people with critical peer mentoring. Because as you said, Karen, when somebody sees somebody who is just like them, who has made it, that anxiety really dissipates really quickly. And you can do so much more for a person when you have just that little bit of trust built up. So we will be having monthly luncheons, free luncheons for any young ladies who are interested in either getting off the streets or getting a job or finding housing that might be more stable than what they're experiencing. Maybe you need some gender affirming clothing that is business wear. We have a donor set up who is going to provide clothing. So the networking luncheon is a chance to just meet other people, to meet people like myself and Karen and Kamar, and just find out what the library has to offer. And this is all free to anybody. But Karen, yeah, I know that you are also very excited about the Butterfly Project. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
Well, first I want to at least say to everybody out there that's watching is to understand the sex workers out there. And they're not doing it because they love doing this type of work. They're doing it because it's a survival type of thing. Remember, I talked about they lost their spouse, their children, their home, their jobs. They need to eat. They need a place to lay their head down at night. And that's why they're out there doing the sex work. They're not doing it because they love it. They're doing it because they want to survive. And we just basically really call it survival sex work. So if you understand that, which I've had an opportunity to talk with the police officers when I ride around with them, they've gotten to really understand and know me, but they're also getting to understand the girls out there on the street that's working. And so when I'm actually speaking to the law enforcement around the country, I'm explaining that exact same thing to them, that when they see them out there, they're not doing it because they love it. They're doing it to survive. So with the Butterfly Project, we're hoping that that's going to help these girls get off the streets to feel safe, a place to go to, a job, to get health care and all that kind of stuff. Because a lot of the girls, they get their medication, which is for hormones or testosterone for the trans men. They're getting all this stuff off the internet and not going to a doctor that's going to be able to give them the proper care, to test their blood out. Because I know for me personally, people were telling me about the internet and where to get drugs at and stuff like that to be the hormones. And I'm like, I got too many issues here. I got high blood pressure. I've got also other issues that I'm having, and it's just I wanted to make sure I was properly taken care of, and so that's why I wanted to seek medical care that way and not the other way. So that's that.
Thank you so much for bringing that up. I think that's a reality that many cisgender people really don't think about, is that medical care is not just, as you said, something that you just chose randomly. It's life-saving medical care that's being provided. The Butterfly Project research page does have an email to contact us for anybody who is interested in starting a series of appointments to get job development skills, to be outfitted with gender affirming business wear. But it also has tons of resources, like if you're food insecure, if you need rental assistance, cash assistance, if you need to be hooked up with people who are experts in transgender care. Our goal was to try and connect Prince Georgians with resources in Prince George's. I think too often I've heard from the queer community and the trans community particularly that if they want resources, they have to go to DC or they have to go to Baltimore. And so I think that the library system is incredibly invested in making sure that we create opportunities for these young women in Prince George's County where they live and work, so that they don't have to think, okay, do I eat or do I take an Uber to this appointment? So it's all kind of coming along. Karen and I have been calling this the little library program that could. It's gotten a lot of great attention thanks to Karen being the head of the Prince George's County Trans Coalition and being kind enough to invite me as a library representative to come and speak to other community partners about the very best way that we can uplift and cherish these women.
Well, Rebecca, I want you to make sure you know that you're my hero. You've been very much a good part for me in working with. You're going to get me crying, so don't do that. But I mean, you have been. I mean, we're both. This is what partnership is all about. This is what it means to care for people out there. And, you know, one thing I just want to mention, because I did do the TED Talk in 2018, actually the beginning of this year, TED was going to go ahead and have all the speakers from past history do a talk on respecting each other. It's like treating each other as you like to be treated. And I wanted to read what I did for that 1 minute talk that didn't get the chance to air because a lot of the other speakers couldn't do it within a minute. So here's mine. Respecting each other, treat others as you wish to be treated is not just a cliche. It's the golden rule in life. I have feelings, a mind and a heart who serves and cares for others. I am a human being and wish to be treated as one, like you would treat your mother, father, children, siblings, and friends. Just like you treat them with respect, I too want to be treated with respect. The only difference between them and me, I am a transgender woman, one who works for the federal government now for 20 years, a military veteran who was given the honor as Soldier of the Year by the State Guard Association of the United States in 2013. So please, treat me as you would like to be treated. It's the golden rule and the right thing to do. And that's it.
That is excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that with Karen. An exclusive for our loyal library virtual program attendees. I also do want to highlight the fact that Prince George's County has done a lot in this past year to let the LGBTQ plus community know that they are seen, they're heard, that space is being created with them within existing systems of power. So I know Cassie Morris and Dr. Howard Brent of the LGBTQ Dignity Project led some of the first Pride events ever that we've had in Prince George's County. This past year, we had strong support from the Prince George's County State's Attorney Aisha Braveboy and her LGBTQ plus task force, as well as College Park's Mayor Patrick Wojahn. And now, you know, the library is throwing our hat in the ring to see what it is that we can do to be a part of the Prince George's Proud movement. What do you hope to see happen next in Prince George's County for the queer and trans community?
Well, I'm looking for this to be a total success with all the partnerships that we've gotten together. I mean, everybody really has a heart to serve Prince George's County. My vision at this point, because it's going so well, I want to see this thing carbon copy in the state of Maryland. From there, go to DC and Virginia. And if it keeps on going the way I see it, I want to take this thing national through the library system, because I think this is a great way to get to everybody. And if, with your leadership in talking about the libraries getting together and the resources that it has, I think that's going to be really, really great, that we can get to a lot of these girls to feel that they have a safe place to come to in these libraries and get the skills and the knowledge they need to be able to get off the streets, get a decent job, get health care, all of these things together. And I'm just, my biggest thing is, stop killing us, this is huge. I mean, like I said earlier, we transitioned to be happy. And why shouldn't we be happy? I've had a blessed transition. I mean, when I tell other trans people how my process went, they're like shocked. They're like, can I do that too? And I hope they do. I mean, I just basically think, it's very possible. I don't know what their past was. And I had to learn that the hard way, because I said, oh, if I did it and it was so easy, other people could do it. No, it's not that case. I mean, when you got parents out there that are saying, if my child is gay or lesbian or transgender, mostly, I'm going to kill them. And when I heard that, I'm like, are you kidding me? You brought this child into the world. You're supposed to love us unconditionally. And I mean, like, that's how my parents are right now. And my brother and sister, they love me to death. And so we need to instill into the lives of other people that, just because you born this child and they turned out to be different than what you planned on, you're supposed to still protect and support us, not, push us out, and so that we're homeless at that point. We need your help. I think a lot of times, people just don't understand, and that's what they're afraid of, and that's why they want to hurt us. Sit down. If you find out that there's a trans person that's in your life somewhere along the path, stop us, talk to us, and say, hey, tell me about your life. Tell me what you're going through. Let me understand you, so that way I can understand and spread that word. I told people at the end of my TED talk that I'm this pebble that's been tossed into a big body of ocean, and I have the ripple effect of spreading my story out to others. And I want everybody that's on this show listening you've heard my story, you've seen what I've done, and with that ripple effect, I want you to tell others. We are not what you see on Jerry Springer's show. We are police officers, firefighters, military, nurses, doctors, judges, you name it. We are every one of those things. Now politicians, you name it. I could not go on and tell you enough of who we all are, yet people just don't understand unless you talk to somebody or hear my story or somebody else's story.
Thank you so much for that. And I see that we've got a shout out from Miss Vivian, who is our number one fan. Hi, Miss Vivian. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Hi, Miss Vivian.
Yes, wonderful, wonderful. So I just what you're saying, that I'm already thinking about the next steps. I'm hopeful for the next steps of, talking to our colleagues at the DC Public Library to see what kind of involvement we could engender there, sharing the outcomes, successful or otherwise, with other colleagues in my profession within the state of Maryland and nationwide as well. So I think that the sky is really the limit. As a queer person myself, I've never been more hopeful when I get to work with people like you. I know that you will be joining us as a speaker for the LGBTQ plus Dignity Project's special National Coming Out Day virtual session, which the library has a link to registration on pgcmls.info/events. And you can find out more about queer history at large and in Prince George's County at our Heritage Hub page, which is pgc.mls, pgcmls.info/pride. So
You're doing better than I would have done on that as fast as you said.
a lot of letters, but that's where we're at in 2021, because everybody has a story and every story needs to be honored. And if every letter represents a story, then every letter needs to be honored. So I'd like to welcome any questions we might have from our audience for Karen, or about any of the library's work to uplift and protect the trans community.
And please ask any question. There's not one question that hasn't been asked. Whether you think it's good or bad question to answer or embarrassing, trust me, I've heard it all, and I will answer each and every one of them. If it's that bad or that personal, then I will say I'll take a pass on it. But generally, I have heard it all. So.
Okay, I see. Let me just make my screen a little larger here. I heard you mention God in your conversation. As a Christian, how do I talk with non-transgender Christians? I'm not transgender. Okay, so I'm guessing this is a cis person who is godly and Christian and wants to know what are the tips for discussing these topics with other Christians.
One, I definitely will come and talk at your church if that's what you like. But two, God loves everybody. And, and that's basically what I tell a lot of my Christian friends. And at my church, they totally support me. It's a welcoming church. It's not a LGBT church. So to me, when I'm making the effect on my church and the parishioners there, like I said, they've gotten to know who I am, and they've supported me in so many ways to make sure that I'm safe out there in the community. Also putting forth the effort as far as supporting the Butterfly Project. The thing is, I tell other Christian friends, you know what? At the Last Supper at the table, God was with everybody who you would think I wouldn't have at my house sitting at my table, but he did. And that's the thing, is that we're supposed to love each and every person out there, not to say, oh, because you're trans, you can't sit at my table. Oh, because you work for IRS, you can't sit at my table because you get all my taxes. He had everybody there. And that's the kind of support we basically need to understand.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Karen. And I would also like to point everybody to resources on PFLAG, that is PFLAG, which is a historic organization that helps people who are friends, families, or others just to support the LGBTQ plus people in their lives, including within a religious or spiritual community. So another great question we have here. Thank you for that question, by the way. Another question we have is, what needs to be said to white cis gay men to get them to do better with supporting Black and brown trans folks? I'm really glad this question was asked because for anybody who does not know, the Pride movement, as we understand it, it did not start with Stonewall, but the Stonewall riots certainly sparked things. And that movement was built on the backs of Black and brown trans women. And now we have this very can be viewed as a very commercialized event every year that is Pride, where we tend to uplift a lot of white cis gay men. So what do we need to tell these individuals to first of all honor the work and emotional labor that has been done by Black and brown trans folks, but also just to get people to be more accepting of our trans siblings?
Wow, that's a tough question. I was going to leave that one up to you. But, and I'll tell you, this is so much of what I understand, and I don't pay any attention to that. That's just me. When I heard the first time that this question came out about the trans community, there were so many people saying that, that gay and lesbian people don't like trans people, and I couldn't understand it. And a lot of trans people, understood it as that. They were basically saying, hey, I am, we're not real. Either trans men are not real men, trans women are not real women. And that was why they didn't like us. I don't understand what was the reason, because I told them at this one conference when that question came up, I am accepted and friends with all, straight, gay, lesbian, you name it. They don't have a problem with me. So I don't know if it's because of who they are, that's what they don't like, personally about that person. I just don't know. And it's been a tough question to really answer, but I don't pay any attention to it myself. I just say, hey, I'm here to love everybody.
I know that's right. I will just say that I will just comment to say that I think there are a lot of issues personally and professionally that I find tied up in that question. White supremacy and its pervasiveness in our culture is one of them. The patriarchy, which is supported, unfortunately, by both men and women and non-binary people, in certain cases, is a part of that. I think that not understanding that gay rights are human rights has caused a little bit of a schism within our own community that makes us feel somewhat disparate when in fact we all are part of one large community. So thank you for broaching that question. There's so much to unpack there. We could do a whole nother program on it. Ms. Vivian has a great question for us. Why was you only married for 6 months?
She just said she wasn't ready. And I know she knew I was, dressing at the time being. She didn't know I was transgender because we're talking so many years ago. But we would even go out to clubs and stuff like that. And I think, I don't know, maybe, she was a little jealous of me because of the fact I was getting picked up more than she was at the clubs. I just don't know. But the primary reason that she told me at the end was she just wasn't ready. So I left it at that. And now I've been trying to do a search for her, but I haven't been able to find, just to let her know who I am. It's the same with my ex-wife now. It's like I wanted to get in touch with her basically to say I'm sorry because I didn't really know who I was. It took me, like I said, 40 years to figure it out. And that's why I was just conflicted for so many years. And I wanted to apologize to her. I've tried 3 different times. She doesn't, answer through her sisters, to call me back. And it's like, you know what? Hey, I've done my best. I feel totally free at this point to say I gave it my best to say I'm sorry, which is, as a Christian person, I look at, that's what I want, to ask for forgiveness and to forgive.
Yeah, I certainly think that's very compassionate. But, as one of my teachers told me once, don't water the rocks. Right. Because they're not going to grow nice green things for you. So, Karen, I just want to, again, thank you so much for making time in your very busy schedule to come out and be so vulnerable and share so much of your story. We celebrate every one of your successes that you've had throughout your incredible life. We are so grateful to have you as a library ambassador in the Butterfly Project. And just me personally, I am just so grateful and impressed and thankful for the work, the critical work that you are doing in our community, particularly for a small demographic of people who are likely the most at risk in our society, in our American society, but certainly right here in Prince George's County, where we live and work, fall in love, have hopes and dreams, build families, and learn together. So.
Right.
Thank you, Kyla, so much for your kind words and for all the work that you do at the Office of the Human Rights. We have just a few minutes left. Karen, is there anything that you would like to just let our audiences go with?
If anybody wants to get in touch with me to come speak or whatever, just let me know. And you can reach me at kkholmes@kkholmes.com, or you can go to my website, which is kkholmes.com. There's a thing down there to say contact. You can get in touch with me there. There's all kinds of things as far as what I'm really concerned with. If you know a trans person out there, step up, be the support that we need. be our advocate. And if you hear of a trans person that's having issues, feel free to, contact me by email or on the website. I don't want to see, for whatever reason, or hear that a person has committed suicide because they don't have anybody to talk to. And so I've really opened myself up to say, hey, give me a call. Let me know if you need to talk. And I'll try my hardest to be there. Even though I've got a tough schedule, trust me, I'm not too busy that you can't approach me or reach out to me.
That's extremely generous. And of course, the library would love to add that the Trevor Project has a 24-hour hotline. There's also a national suicide 24-hour hotline that you can find resources like that on the Butterfly Project's page. You can easily find them in Google. And just a shout out to all the trans babies out there. The library has a safe space for you. To the trans adults out there, please do not be shy to expect the best when you come to our libraries, that you will be respected and honored, that we will have no problems with changing the gender on your library account, removing dead names, to trans teens who are out or not out yet, which is totally fine. You're still totally valid. We have a safe space channel on our Discord server. You can find more information about that on our teens page. Karen, thank you so very much for everything that you've done, for everything that we're about to do together.
I'm excited.
I'm very much looking forward to the future. And again, thank you everyone for attending Prince George's County Memorial Library System's wonderful weekly community conversation today with Karen Holmes.
And I'd like to say one thing real quick, is something I've always said and lived with for years: shoot for the moon, and even if you miss, you'll be among the stars. And God bless you all.
Thank you, Karen. Same to you. Bye, everybody. We'll see you at the library.
Bye.